Love is conditional. Love is something to be earned, not something freely given. At least that's what my childhood taught me. Growing up in an Asian household, I've spent more than 3/4 of my life actively seeking my parents' approval. Doing things solely so that I felt like I was making other people proud of me instead of making, me proud of me. That was my idea of love. And in that case, it's no surprise why I was so confused when social media started shoving the phrase, love yourself, in my face. Why would I ever need or want self-love when I really wasn't sold on the idea of love in the first place? You see, over the years, I've learned that there is a massive difference between conditional and unconditional love. I don't blame my parents for this because they have always genuinely done what they thought was the best for me in my life, but the reality is that they taught me implicitly, at least, that love is conditional. Get fantastic grades, go do the clubs and activities we tell you to do. Don't question, what we tell you to do, or else we won't treat you with the same level of love and respect. I guess on the other hand, my best friends throughout my life, my older sister, my most important mentors, they've all taught me what it's like to be loved, without conditions. These are people who have known me for years, people who have been through so many iterations of who Joseph has been and who have been through all of the thick and the thinner, I guess. I'm still learning to love myself that way, the unconditional way. The type of love where no matter what happens, no matter how bad the day was, I'm able to still sit down with the other person, or I guess in this case, myself, and say, yeah, I still love you. I'll always love you. It's certainly been a journey to fall in love with, or even to just like myself. Just 2 years ago, I would tell you I was undoubtedly my least favorite person. It's taken a lot of physical, mental, and emotional work to get where I am today, but I can safely say that I think 19-year-old me would be really, really proud of me right now. About a month ago, I walked out the shower over here after a workout and looked myself in the mirror and thought, damn, I'm looking pretty good, without, thinking too much of it. I'll admit, like 5 to 10 seconds later, I started getting a little emotional after I realized what just happened. You see, I've spent basically my entire life hating, and that's not too strong of a word, hating the way I look. I avoided taking photos, watching videos of myself, even sometimes going out with friends because I was just so ashamed and embarrassed of my appearance. There came a point 2 years ago where I would instantly turn away from the mirror in the bathroom because I so strongly did not want to look at myself. And that's really sad, and I guess here I was in that moment feeling confident about my body without needing to gaslight myself. I have been talking a lot with my friends about the idea of loving yourself recently. We mostly agree that in order to love yourself, you have to appreciate, or at the very least tolerate and accept every single part of who you are. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. That last part is the part I thought honestly may never happen for me. In that moment, I realized maybe it's finally happening, maybe I truly love myself for the first time in my life. To be honest with you, the second half of 2022 was a really, really dark time for me. Let's not get too deep into the details here, but I had some of the most disturbing thoughts I've ever experienced. I guess the way I learned to cope with those emotions was essentially by shutting down, to not let myself fully process these feelings I was having. When you become apathetic to the bad things that happen in your life, that's when you probably just don't care anymore. If you watch a sports team lose on TV, for example, if you're screaming, kicking, crying whenever they lose, that's when you're invested. When I realized that I cared more about Russell Westbrook getting his ass off the Lakers than I did about my own mental health, that's when I knew maybe I had some issues. It's when I didn't give a shit. It's when I didn't let myself feel upset about the things that were supposed to matter to me in my life that I realized, man, maybe I don't love myself, and maybe I never did. There's a trash can right there. Come on. I got this, right? So, how did I break out of it? I think the most important thing I did was to start truly listening to my mind and my body. What I've learned recently is that I'm 100% an extrovert. I need to talk to people in order to, feel happy with my day in general. That means I need to put more effort into growing my personal relationships with people than probably the average person does. I've spent the past 8 months of my life building my personal relationships with my favorite people as much as possible. I think it becomes that much easier to love yourself and to love your life when you are actively working to make yourself happy, to do things that make you happy. I've also fully embraced my desire to start working on myself physically. Every time I go to the gym, I'm not only slowly improving my quality of life on a day-to-day basis, but I am also gaining a sense of control. For 19 years, I used to view people who woke up every single day early to go to the gym as like fucking psychopaths. You know, people who were almost mythical in a way with how much higher of a plane of existence they were than me. Now, I guess I'm one of those people. Sleeping at least 7.5 hours almost every single day, eating the right way, spending an average of 3 to 4 hours a day exercising. Like, who the fuck am I? I guess what you need to realize is that I'm not really a naturally happy person. What I mean by that is like my natural state of being has always been to be pessimistic, tired, discontent with everything. I've learned that I'm the type of person who needs to actively search for happiness, to do things actively that will let me go to bed every day and say, wow, that was a good day. Happiness that you work for isn't any less valid than happiness that just falls into your lap. If anything, I find it more rewarding. I think a lot all the time about conquering my own negative thoughts. That voice inside my head. I have always been my own worst enemy, but what if instead, for once, I became my own best friend? This was an extremely active process for me. It wasn't just something that happened to me. The title should really be Learning to Fall in Love with Yourself, but it honestly didn't look nearly as aesthetic in my opinion. I feel like when people say the phrase fall in love, it implies like it wasn't intentional. I've had to fight for this. I've had to earn my own love consistently throughout the past couple years. While that's not ideal for sure, I can't help but think that I genuinely deserve this newfound happiness in my life. I've battled past decades of social anxiety, years of bullying during my childhood, and less than emotionally available parents to come out on the other side someone who I think people at least seem to genuinely enjoy talking to. And I conquered almost 20 years of eating addiction to get into by far the best shape of my life and to make what to me will be the most important piece of content that I will ever share with the world. The comments I've gotten under that video are some of the most heartwarming things I've ever seen. I don't want to get emotional, but I can't think of something that I've been more proud of doing, honestly. Buddy, look at the camera. Look at the camera. Okay. The days when I feel really lazy and don't feel like going to the gym, I honestly just repeat the phrases, you fucking bum, fat ass, you piece of shit, over and over again until I just give up and go. Would I ever in a million years talk to someone else that way? No way in hell. Like, I'm not that type of person, and I guess that's where the gray area is. How much should kindness towards yourself go versus pushing yourself towards your goals? The hard part about this whole situation is that I grew up on tough love. Sometimes you get insulted, sometimes you get reprimanded over small things, but now I know that if I talk to myself, at least in a demeaning way, it motivates me. It hypes me up. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of what I need to do to continue to enjoy my life and to continue to love and appreciate who I am as a person. And so I guess this is part of the journey I need to go on to figure that shit out, My experiences, my flaws, they make me who I am. If I was never fat and bullied so much as a kid, I probably wouldn't be nearly as funny as I am now, or at least try to be. If I wasn't so guarded during middle school and high school, maybe I wouldn't be so open to being vulnerable now. When you surround yourself with people who genuinely love to see you winning, it becomes that much easier to root for yourself as well. For me personally, if we're good friends, I'm gonna be your number one hype man. I'm gonna be your number one cheerleader, even at the expense of being corny. And I think a lot of my friends, my closest friends especially, share that same energy back at me. They reciprocate that. There's probably, at least 6 to 8 people outside of my immediate family that I genuinely feel like I can tell anything to. And I know that these are people who will probably stay by my side and root for me every step of the way in my life as long as I want them to. And that's an amazing feeling, especially when that number of people was probably something more like 0 when I was growing up. I don't listen to a lot of relationship advice because it unfortunately has not been the most relevant to my life, but one thing I always hear is to not become too attached to the idea of a person versus what they actually are. I think people, myself included, need to start taking that same logic and applying it to themselves. Of course it's good to have ambition. Of course it's good to strive to become the best possible version of yourself every single day. But how about instead of romanticizing what you could be, take some time to romanticize what you already actually are. A friend, a son, an athlete, a funny guy, a shy extrovert, a fighter. I've learned to admire my own best qualities, forgive myself for my faults, and treat myself with respect and decency for the very first time. And to me, that's what it's been like to fall in love with myself. Thank you.